I use a lot of glass in my Let's Play survival series. So much so that certain episodes it has taken me like 60 or 70% of the time to make an episode has just gone into mining sand. You know what? I'd rather spend my time actually making content that people enjoy rather than just mining sand, so I had to do something about it. And I enabled some carpet extra mod option just so I could make this. I'd like to show you how this is done. Now, this can of course not be done in normal vanilla survival Minecraft. You have to have a mod. Actually, you need two mods. You need the carpet mod and the carpet extra mod, which is just additional options for the carpet mod. The way you enable the option is carpet set default renewable sand true, and now by default this method of making sand will work. So the thing we're working with is a very simple concept. When you have a block of cobblestone and drop an anvil on it, it turns into sand. Of course, you could do it manually, but that would be no different from mining the sand, and actually it would probably be much slower. The advantage of a machine like this that it can run AFK while we are asleep or doing something else more useful and more interesting. This will be the world download for this video, where you can look at the details of the 3 different machines I have here, and I'll go through each of them, what problems they are solving and why they behave they do. The first one is this one. It's the seemingly simplest machine, even though it was actually more complicated to design than the second one, but let's start with this one. We have a cobblestone generator here, and this sand block used to be a cobblestone block that just got converted by an anvil. Let's remove it, see what happens. Yep, we get a block of cobblestone, we place an anvil up against this block, it falls down and creates sand. So we can turn on the machine. Now, the first problem we need to deal with is that the anvil cannot fly too high up, because if it flies too high up, the anvil, when it falls down on the cobblestone and converts it into sand, the anvil will get damaged and eventually destroyed. So we need to limit how high the anvil will fly so that it can last forever. That's problem number 1. This block solves this. By the way, this anvil here is not necessary. It's only there because when experimenting with various timing of the machine, I kept breaking anvils, so it's just convenient if I don't happen to have an anvil in my hotbar, I can just middle click it and select it. That's the only reason why the anvils are on each of these machines. Now, as you can see, the timings here are a little bit awkward. The machine is a bit slow. This one, if I recall correctly, and it's not very important, but this one generates, I think, 1800 sand per hour or something like that. It can't be made faster because we're not timing the creation of the cobblestone perfectly, so sometimes you can see the cobblestone generates very early. This time it's, I think what happens when the anvil stays in place is that it starts falling and then immediately a block of cobblestone gets generated under it and we remove it. And also the speed of the cobblestone generation is limited because there is this slime block here that prevents the lava from spreading, and the anvil is there, and yeah, the whole timing here is a bit awkward. And it's not really possible to make this machine much faster because sometimes the cobblestone generates immediately, sometimes it generates at the last second. Now, the second machine is a little bit more sophisticated. As you can see, well, as you can see, we don't even have time to see the cobblestone when it generates because we push it away at the perfect interval where it generates. So the cycle of this machine is 32 ticks. It takes 30 ticks for the lava to spread, but the piston is in the way for 2 ticks, so 32 ticks is the maximum we can get from this machine. And what happens here is, first, this sticky piston extends and pulls the sand block from under the anvil. The anvil starts falling. We extend this sticky piston with the slime to bounce the anvil up. The anvil hits this block and starts falling down. And in the meantime, we push in the blocks from the cobblestone generator. As you can see, there is a little bit awkward mechanism for pushing the blocks in, because the cobblestone comes in this line here, and then we push it in here, and then that piston pushes it into place. This is done because otherwise the cobblestone would get stuck on the slime block and be pulled down. We don't want that to happen. So this has to be done this way. And as far as I can tell, this is as fast as you can get a sand generator using a single cobblestone source. To move faster, we need more cobblestone generators. And this machine does that. The cycle length on this machine is 14 ticks. That translates to 5,100 something sand per hour. I don't have it in my head right now. We're using 4 cobblestone sources. But other than that, this part of the mechanism is pretty much the same as this one. It's maybe slightly more optimized so we can cycle much faster. Let's turn it off so we can avoid the noise. So like I said, this part of the machine is pretty much the same as that one. To go through it a little bit, is that we move this observer in, that generates a pulse, that starts the cycle. The first thing in the cycle that we do is to extend this sticky piston that pulls the sand block out, and there is a hopper underneath the slab, because a sand block that falls down on a slab will break into a sand item. The hopper picks it up. Then, on a 2-tick delay, we extend this sticky piston with a slime so that the anvil can bounce. Now the anvil will bounce and it will bounce off the slime block, and I to be honest, not 100% sure if this needs to be a slime block or a normal block, because I've had some issues with a normal block, but in most cases it does work. But I've done most of my testing with a slime block there. It shouldn't matter, but it might. So I'm gonna keep it as a slime block. Anyway, so the anvil flies up, bounces off this block, and starts falling down again. In the meantime, this observer sees that there was a pulse here and will just generate 1 pulse every cycle. This powers this piston, which pushes the cobblestone in front of this piston, and on a 1-tick delay on that repeater over there, this piston pushes this cobblestone block into place over the slime block that has just retracted. So that is timed perfectly. Now this signal here also powers this little pulse divider. So every 4th pulse, so every 4th cycle of the machine, we pick up the signal here and extend these pistons to push in new cobblestone blocks into this chamber here. Now this part here, I'll talk about it a little bit later because it's a bit of a lucky coincidence, but this controls the block conveyor, which is a bunch of sticky pistons with pistons on them and the sticky pistons extend, and then the signal goes into these target blocks which power the pistons, and through some, I don't know if it's game mechanics or just pure luck, the front piston extends first, which means that the back pistons can't push it, and only the front piston pushes the cobblestone. I am not 100% sure if that means that the machine is directional or locational. I have built it in multiple locations and that has worked. I have rotated it and it seems to work as well. I am not 100% sure if this is supposed to always work, but it seems to work now, and there are probable ways around it later. I just threw this together as an experiment if I could, and yeah, I could. Here we just have water and lava to generate the cobblestone. Nothing spectacular about it. Now, this thing is supposed to fire every 4th time, but there's not really anything preventing us from firing it every time, because the crying obsidian here will prevent the cobblestone from moving the target blocks, so in case we fire this too often, only maybe 1 or 2 of the pistons will push in cobblestone and the other ones will just rest, so it should work fine. The same goes for extending these pistons. The reason why this block conveyor works is because if we have cobblestone blocks here and here, these pistons will not be able to move because of this crying obsidian. Only this sticky piston will extend and this piston will be pushing the cobblestone. Then the next time, the first 2 sticky pistons will be able to extend and that one will extend and push the cobblestone. This seems reliable even though it's basically just a quick hack I threw together. Now, let's talk about this component here, because it's kind of weird. So, originally, the block conveyor was using just a repeater on 4 ticks. So, the problem with that is we want the long pulse, so we want it to be enabled for 4 redstone ticks, or rather 8 game ticks. I like to give my measurements in game ticks. So we want that long pulse of 8 game ticks, but the delay on this component here meant that we didn't start pushing the cobblestone into the machine fast enough, and that slowed the whole thing down. This machine could only operate on 16 ticks or even just 18. I don't remember anymore, but this repeater here had to have additional delay. You can see that there is an initial delay and then we have a 8-tick pulse. So initially I thought, okay, I will just add a pulse extender. This is still an 8-tick pulse, but now with almost no delay. That's perfect, that's what we want. But I couldn't fit, this is a little bit too long for the machine. So I could only fit something like this. And, well, if we set this repeater correctly, this is just 6 ticks long. That's too short for my needs. So I set this repeater to 2 ticks, naively think, it wasn't even naively, it was just a brain fart. It was not supposed to work. So I set it to that and see what happens now. We get 2 pulses. For some reason I didn't notice this in testing, I just built it like this, put it on the machine, turned it on, and it works. But as you can see, the sticky pistons are firing twice. Originally they weren't supposed to fire twice. Originally they were supposed to only fire once. And with this kind of line, they would only fire once and they would extend, let the piston in front of the sticky piston push the blocks, and then retract. For some reason we get this double action on the sticky pistons, yet this did nothing to ruin the timing of the whole thing. So this is a complete lucky accident that this part works, but I'm not gonna change it, because hey, it works. Don't fix it if it's not broken. There is another very strange behavior of this machine that seems to be positional, and that is how you push in this observer. So I have observed that this machine here has problems when I turn it off. Sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes has problems when I turn it off when I pull out the observer. Not exactly sure what is being powered. I have never managed to catch exactly what's happening, but something goes wrong and there is a block of cobblestone here under the anvil. This can be solved by putting the observer here and powering the machine like this. I have no idea why the direction from which we push in the observer matters, but it seems to do. Same thing goes for this machine. This one more often breaks with the observer underneath than from the side. If someone understands locational or positional redstone, I would definitely like to hear your ideas for why this might be a problem. But that will be it from me today. There will be a world download in the description. And let me just repeat, you definitely have to enable the Carpet Extra feature of renewable sand. Without that, this machine will do absolutely nothing. Thanks for watching and have a good sanding. Bye.